The invitation should have been sitting in my mailbox 3 months ago. Instead, I found myself scrolling through Instagram stories, watching my cousin Tessa's engagement photos pop up on my screen like little daggers to my heart. There she was, radiant in a flowing white dress, surrounded by sunflowers and fairy lights, with her fiancé Marcus beaming beside her. The caption read, "Cannot wait to celebrate with all our loved ones." All our loved ones. I screenshotted that phrase and stared at it until my eyes burned. Because apparently, I was not included in that sacred circle of loved ones anymore. The realization hit me like a freight train when I started seeing the wedding planning posts. My Aunt Sarah sharing bridesmaid dress options. My Uncle Dave posting about his duties as the officiant. My little cousin Emma, barely 16, excitedly showing off her junior bridesmaid dress. Even my college roommate Jessica, who had maybe spoken to Tessa twice in her entire life, posted a photo of her wedding invitation with the caption, "So excited for this beautiful celebration." But me? Nothing. Not a single word. Not even a casual mention. I spent 3 sleepless nights wondering if there had been some mistake. Maybe the invitation got lost in the mail. Maybe they forgot my new address. Maybe this was all some horrible misunderstanding that would be cleared up with a simple phone call. So I called. "Mom," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "Did you get an invitation to Tessa's wedding?" The silence on the other end of the line stretched for what felt like eternity. I could hear her breathing, could practically feel her scrambling for the right words. "Honey," she finally said, her voice tight with discomfort, "maybe you should sit down." Those 5 words shattered something inside me, because I knew in that moment that this was not a mistake. This was not an oversight. This was a deliberate, calculated decision to erase me from one of the most important days in our family's life. "They did not want any distractions," she continued, each word falling like a stone into my stomach. "Tessa felt that your presence might take away from her special day." My presence? As if I were some kind of natural disaster that could not be contained. "What does that even mean?" I demanded, my voice rising despite my efforts to stay calm. "You know what it means," she said softly. "You have a following. You are known for making an entrance." They wanted something simple, intimate, without any complications. Complications. That is what I had become to my own family. A complication. I hung up the phone and cried for 2 straight hours. Not pretty tears either. The kind of ugly, soul-crushing sobs that leave you gasping for air and questioning everything you thought you knew about the people who are supposed to love you unconditionally. The truth was, I did have a following. My fashion and lifestyle channel had grown from a small hobby into a legitimate business, with 2.2 million subscribers. I worked with major brands, attended exclusive events, and yes, sometimes I made an entrance. But that was my job. That was my life. And I had never, not once, used my platform to overshadow anyone else's moment. But apparently, the mere possibility that I might was enough to get me completely cut from the guest list. For the next month, I watched their wedding preparation unfold from the sidelines like some kind of twisted social media spectacle. Every detail was documented, every moment shared, every person included except for me. I saw the bachelorette party photos, the bridal shower videos, the rehearsal dinner toasts. I watched my entire family celebrate together while I sat alone in my apartment, feeling like a ghost haunting my own life. The wedding day itself was the worst torture of all. I woke up knowing that at that very moment, my family was gathering to celebrate love and commitment and new beginnings, and I was not welcome. I tried to distract myself with work, with cleaning, with anything that would keep my mind occupied. But every few minutes, I found myself checking Instagram, watching the story updates roll in. There was Uncle Dave in his officiant robes, looking nervous but proud. There was Aunt Sarah adjusting Tessa's veil, tears streaming down her face. There was little Emma throwing flower petals down the aisle, her face glowing with joy. And there, in the background of every single photo, were those cheap fold-out chairs that looked like they had been borrowed from a church basement. The reception was even worse. Blurry videos of the first dance, shaky footage of the cake cutting, and yes, multiple posts about the potato salad that was apparently one of the main dishes. In July, outside, with no shade tent and no refrigeration in sight, I watched my cousin Dave livestream the entire reception vertically on his phone like he was documenting a crime scene. The audio was terrible, the lighting was worse, and at one point, you could clearly see someone's grandmother fanning herself with a paper plate, because the heat was so unbearable. But what broke my heart more than anything was seeing how happy they all looked. How complete their joy seemed without me there. How easily they had filled the space where I should have been standing. That night, I made a decision that would change everything. I had been engaged for 6 months. My fiancé David and I had been planning a small, intimate ceremony, something simple and understated. We had talked about maybe having it at my parents' house, or perhaps at a small local venue. Nothing flashy, nothing attention-grabbing. Just a quiet celebration of our love. But as I lay in bed that night, staring at the ceiling and replaying every moment of exclusion, I realized that quiet was not what I needed anymore. I needed to make a statement. I needed to show my family exactly what they had walked away from when they decided I was too much trouble to include. I needed to create something so spectacular, so breathtaking, so undeniably magnificent that they would never be able to look away. The next morning, I called David and told him we were changing our wedding plans. Everything. The venue, the guest list, the scale, the timeline. Instead of a small family gathering, we were going to create an event that would be talked about for years to come. "Are you sure about this?" he asked, his voice filled with concern. "This sounds like it is coming from a place of hurt, not joy." "Maybe it is," I admitted. "But I am tired of making myself smaller to make other people comfortable. I am tired of being treated like I am too much. If they think I am too much, then I am going to show them what too much really looks like." David was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "Okay, let us do this. But let us do it right. Let us create something so beautiful that when people look back on it, they will remember the love first, and the statement second." That was exactly what I needed to hear. Within a week, I had completely transformed our wedding plans. Instead of a backyard ceremony, we booked a rooftop venue in Manhattan with sweeping views of the city skyline. Instead of a simple white dress, I commissioned a custom gown from an incredibly talented black designer who had just started making waves in the fashion world. Instead of a small guest list, we invited everyone who had ever supported my career, my dreams, and my vision. The guest list was a masterpiece in itself. 3 major influencers who had become genuine friends over the years. 2 editors from prestigious fashion magazines who had featured my work. 1 soap opera star who had become a mentor and friend. A handful of designers, photographers, and creative professionals who had helped build my brand. And yes, my college roommate Jessica, who had remained loyal and supportive even when my own family had turned their backs. But here was the most important part. Every single person on that guest list was there because they genuinely cared about David and me. They were not there for the spectacle or the networking opportunities. They were there because they wanted to celebrate our love story. The planning process was intense. I hired a wedding planner who specialized in high-end events, someone who understood that this was not just a wedding, but a production. We spent hours going over every detail, from the color scheme to the lighting to the flow of the evening. Nothing was left to chance. The flowers alone were a work of art. Instead of traditional white roses, we went with a dramatic palette of deep purples, rich golds, and striking blacks. The arrangements were sculptural, almost architectural in their beauty. They looked like they belonged in a museum, not a wedding. The music was live, performed by a string quartet that had played at Lincoln Center. The food was prepared by a chef who had worked at Michelin-starred restaurants. The photography was handled by someone who had shot covers for Vogue. And yes, we had drones. Professional-grade drones that captured aerial footage of the ceremony and reception, creating cinematic shots that looked like they belonged in a movie. But the most important element was the live stream. I had built my career on social media, on sharing my life with my audience, and I was not about to stop now. We set up multiple cameras, professional lighting, and a dedicated streaming setup that would broadcast the entire wedding live to my 2.2 million followers. The morning of the wedding, I woke up feeling a mixture of excitement and nervousness that I had never experienced before. This was not just about marrying the love of my life anymore. This was about making a statement. This was about showing the world, and more importantly, showing my family, exactly who I was and what I was capable of. The preparation process was documented every step of the way. My makeup artist, who had worked with A-list celebrities, created a look that was both timeless and dramatic. My hairstylist crafted an updo that was elegant yet modern. And when I finally stepped into my custom gown, I felt like I was transforming into the person I had always been meant to be. The dress itself was a masterpiece. The designer had created something that was uniquely mine, with hand-beaded details that caught the light and a silhouette that was both classic and contemporary. It was not just a wedding dress. It was a work of art that would be remembered long after the day was over. As the ceremony began, I could see the city spreading out below us, a glittering backdrop that made everything feel magical and surreal. The string quartet began to play, and I walked down the aisle feeling like I was floating. Every person in attendance was there because they loved and supported us, and that energy was palpable. David looked absolutely stunning in his custom tuxedo, his eyes filled with tears as he watched me approach. In that moment, all the hurt and anger and frustration melted away, replaced by pure joy and love. This was what a wedding should feel like. This was what celebration should look like. The ceremony itself was beautiful and meaningful. We had written our own vows, and they were deeply personal and heartfelt. We talked about our journey together, about the challenges we had faced, about the dreams we shared for the future. There was not a dry eye in the house. But I would be lying if I said I did not feel a surge of satisfaction when I saw the viewer count on the live stream climbing higher and higher. By the time we exchanged rings, we had over 150,000 people watching live. The comments were pouring in, full of love and support and congratulations. People were calling it the most beautiful wedding they had ever seen. The reception was everything I had dreamed it would be. The food was incredible, the music was perfect, and the atmosphere was electric. Everyone was having the time of their lives, and it showed in every photo, every video, every moment that was captured. The toasts were particularly memorable. Instead of awkward family speeches about childhood memories, we had heartfelt words from people who had watched our relationship grow and flourish. My friend Sarah, the soap opera star, gave a speech about love and authenticity that had everyone in tears. My mentor and collaborator Marcus talked about the importance of surrounding yourself with people who celebrate your success rather than diminish it. But the most powerful moment came when David took the microphone for his speech. He talked about how proud he was to be marrying someone who refused to make herself smaller for anyone else's comfort. He talked about how my strength and determination had inspired him to be a better person. He talked about how our love story was proof that the right people will always celebrate your light, not try to dim it. As the evening went on, I kept checking the live stream analytics. The numbers were incredible. We had reached over 300,000 viewers at one point, and the engagement was off the charts. People were sharing clips, posting comments, and spreading the word about our celebration. And then I saw it. A notification that made my heart skip a beat. Tessa had liked a comment on the live stream. Not just any comment, but one that said, "This wedding makes that potato salad picnic look like a church potluck." I screenshotted it immediately, my hands shaking with a mixture of vindication and disbelief. She had been watching. She had seen everything. And in a moment of carelessness, she had revealed that she was not only paying attention, but that she was affected by what she was seeing. The satisfaction I felt in that moment was overwhelming. All the pain, all the rejection, all the nights spent wondering why I was not good enough for my own family. It all felt worth it in that single moment of acknowledgement. The wedding coverage did not stop when the reception ended. Within hours, photos from the event were being shared across social media platforms. Professional photographers had captured every moment, every detail, every emotion. The images were stunning, magazine-quality shots that told the story of a celebration that was both intimate and grand. 2 days later, I got a call from a major bridal magazine. They wanted to feature our wedding in their next issue. Not just a small feature, but a full spread with professional photos and an interview about our love story. I said yes immediately. When the magazine hit the stands a month later, I bought 5 copies. The photos were breathtaking. The article was beautifully written. And most importantly, it was a permanent record of a day that had been absolutely perfect in every way. I posted the magazine cover on my social media accounts, And the response was immediate and overwhelming. Congratulations poured in from followers, friends, and even some family members who had previously been silent. The post got hundreds of thousands of likes and thousands of comments from people who had been following our story. But the real victory came during the holidays. At Thanksgiving dinner, which I attended with my head held high and my wedding ring sparkling on my finger, the conversation inevitably turned to weddings. And for the first time in family history, it was not Tessa's wedding that dominated the discussion. It was mine. My Aunt Sarah could not stop talking about the magazine feature. My Uncle Dave wanted to know all about the rooftop venue. My little cousin Emma was fascinated by the custom dress and kept asking to see more photos. Even my parents, who had been embarrassed by the whole situation, seemed proud of what David and I had accomplished. Tessa sat quietly through most of the conversation, occasionally nodding or smiling, but clearly uncomfortable with the attention being focused elsewhere. At one point, she tried to redirect the conversation back to her own wedding, mentioning how much fun everyone had at the reception. "Oh yes," my grandmother said absently. "That was lovely, dear. But did you see the aerial footage from their ceremony? It looked like something out of a movie." The look on Tessa's face was priceless. Not angry, exactly, but something closer to resignation. Like she finally understood that her attempt to diminish my shine had only made it burn brighter. Christmas was even better. More family gatherings, more conversations about the wedding, more opportunities for people to gush about the photos and the magazine feature, and the incredible celebration we had created. Every holiday became a reminder of what they had missed out on by excluding me. But the most satisfying moment came 6 months later, when I received a message from Tessa herself. "I saw your wedding feature in the magazine," she wrote. "It looked absolutely beautiful. I hope you know that the decision not to invite you was not personal. We just wanted something small and simple." I stared at that message for a long time before responding. There were so many things I could have said. So many ways I could have expressed the hurt and anger I had felt. So many opportunities for petty revenge. Instead, I wrote back, "Thank you. I hope you know that creating something beautiful was not about you. It was about celebrating love in a way that felt authentic to who we are." Because that was the truth. Yes, I had started planning our wedding from a place of hurt and rejection. But somewhere along the way, it had become something much more meaningful. It had become a celebration of the life David and I had built together, surrounded by people who genuinely loved and supported us. The wedding had been everything I had dreamed it would be and more. It had been featured in magazines, shared by thousands of people, and remembered by everyone who attended. But more than that, it had been a declaration that I would not be diminished by other people's insecurities. I had learned that family is not always about blood. Sometimes it is about the people who choose to celebrate your light instead of trying to dim it. Sometimes it is about the people who show up when it matters most. And sometimes, the best revenge is not revenge at all. Sometimes it is simply living your life so fully, so authentically, so brilliantly that the people who try to exclude you cannot help but take notice. My wedding had been many things: a celebration of love, a work of art, a social media phenomenon, and yes, a statement. But most importantly, it had been a reminder that I deserved to take up space in this world. I deserved to be celebrated, not hidden away. The family members who had supported Tessa's decision to exclude me learned a valuable lesson that day. They learned that when you try to dim someone else's light, you do not make your own shine brighter. You just create more darkness. But I chose to create more light instead. I chose to build something so beautiful, so magnificent, so unforgettable that it would inspire others to do the same. I chose to show the world that being too much is not a flaw to be corrected, but a gift to be celebrated. And every time someone brings up my wedding at family gatherings, every time someone shares one of the photos on social media, every time someone tells me how much the celebration meant to them, I am reminded that I made the right choice. I could have stayed small. I could have accepted their rejection and faded into the background. I could have planned a simple ceremony that would not have threatened anyone or caused any drama. But instead, I chose to shine. I chose to create something spectacular. I chose to show my family and the world exactly what they had walked away from when they decided I was too much trouble to include. And they will never forget it. Because now, Every wedding they attend will be compared to mine. Every celebration will be measured against the standard we set that day. Every family gathering will include conversations about the magazine feature, the aerial footage, the custom dress, the rooftop venue, and the love story that inspired it all. They wanted to erase me from their narrative, but instead, I became the chapter that everyone remembers most. If this story inspired you to embrace your own light and never let anyone dim your shine, please subscribe to our channel for more empowering stories about standing up for yourself, creating your own magic, and never settling for less than you deserve. Your support means the world to us, and we cannot wait to share more incredible journeys with you. Hit that subscribe button and join our community of people who refuse to be made smaller for anyone else's comfort.